What is up, everybody? This is your host, Dedrian Cologne for City of Rasslin Showtime. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you're notified when the City of Rasslin drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian180, on all social media platforms. Tonight, I am going to be going over a few things from AEW's pay-per-view World's End, and I will discuss a few things that happened before the pay-per-view and after the or I should say, during the pay-per-view. Not necessarily AEW news, but some stuff that's got people talking and everything. Man, today has been a very eventful day in the world of professional wrestling, to say the least. Just go on social media, you'll find it and everything. But man, tonight's AEW World's End pay-per-view, man, that was a very interesting pay-per-view. I have some thoughts on it. I love the ending. I like the beginning. And like in between, it was, man, that was, whew, Lord have mercy. It could have been better. It's hard to explain. I think the best way to explain this pay-per-view in the middle would be, let me bring up the match card and everything. I wouldn't say mediocre. It was just very bland. And it wasn't what if you're an AEW fan, it wasn't something that you're used to from AEW pay-per-views. Full Gear, fun pay-per-view. Well, some people didn't like the ending and everything. I pretty much liked it. Could have tweaked a few things. Wrestle Dream was pretty cool. All In, loved it. But man, this pay-per-view, it reminded me of All Out 2020, where it was just something, things did not click, and things that you would think would click, just, it was like, I know there's more to this. And it's not a shot at the wrestlers, behind the scenes crew or anything like that. It's just, sometimes it just happens. That's all I gotta say. Sometimes it just happens. You just have that night where the whole show just doesn't click. But for the most part, the ending, I loved it. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm really interested to see where AEW is going to go on Wednesday for the first Dynamite. That's going to be interesting. But man, overall, I mean, did this show... Okay, give me a second. Ooh, okay, that's interesting. Did this show entertain? Some people may say yes, some people may say no. For me, it took my mind off a few things, and you guys who, of course, it's been a while since I've done reviews, which that's going to change after today. For the most part, my thing as far as pro wrestling, especially in 2023 and even in years past, is, when I'm watching it, does it take my mind off of things in the world and everything and just be, an escape? And entertainment is escapism, and for the most part, it did do that. A few things did kind of frustrate me as far as the show and how it's like, oh man, it could have been a little bit better. But no, there's a few things that really stood out in this show. They're gonna have some things that, like I said, is going to carry over into Dynamite, Rampage, Collision. I'm looking forward to 2024 in the world of professional wrestling. Not only AEW, WWE, New Japan, especially the return of TNA Wrestling, Stardom, MLW, the Indies. You got Mustafa Ali's World Tour. We don't know what's going to happen with Dolph Ziggler, Deonna Purrazzo, Camille, Alex Hammerstone. Who else? Kazuchika Okada. There's so many free agents coming out, so we just don't know. But I'm really anticipated. But man, let's get into AEW's World End. The first thing that I want to talk about that I believe it was broke a couple days ago. It was murmuring, but today during her before the pay-per-view, it was reported that Andrade Idolo maybe I shouldn't say maybe. It looks like he will be returning to WWE after tonight. Is he the former champion that Triple H was referring to in his tweet yesterday? If you guys haven't saw that, go to Triple H's Twitter. He was hinting towards a. He's like, I'm not going to confirm nor deny that the rumors. Watch Monday Night Raw, so that is going to be interesting. WWE Day One Raw this Monday. So yeah, that was the word that he was going to. Uh, he's headed back to WWE. And when the news broke, I tweeted, I was like, you know what? I would not be surprised if CJ Perry, who's managing Andrade, turns on him during the match. And that happened. I wasn't disappointed. I was like, okay, that makes sense. If he's on his way out, make that turn, have her somewhat align with Miro. And the way it came off, it was like she aligned with them, but then at the same time was kind of like sending them this message like, yeah, I turned on this guy that I was managing, but I may have somebody else up the sleeve. And yes, I see the potential that you have. So it was like this double message that she sent that came across like she's sending to Miro, which I was like, this is pretty interesting. So I'm interested to see where that goes. During this match at this time, man, the crowd was just there. A lot of time, or I would say for the most part of this pay-per-view, man, the crowd was pretty silent. And I know some people on social media are like, man, what's with this crowd? What's with this crowd? It was just a weird atmosphere. And I think most of the weirdness or the awkwardness of the pay-per-view centered around the news that was going around early in the morning surrounding one of the AEW wrestlers. I'm not going to get into it in this review. Most of you guys are watching the review, you kind of know what's going on. So that was a bulk of the conversation and discourse, and you could kind of sense like, okay, this crowd, yeah, when that match happens, whew, that's and yeah, when the 8-man tag with Sting, Darby, Sammy, and the person that is involved in the story, yeah, that was a strong sense of awkwardness, and just you can kind of sense with the crowd, let's get this over with. Like, we like Sting, this is this. And what was really interesting about that match was Sammy got the pin, and it was Sting's last time at Nassau Coliseum, which I thought was really weird. And mind you, this match is not on my notes, but that match was really, if there was a match that you could say from tonight was an example of just the awkwardness and just things not meshing, this was the match, man. This was, yeah, it was really weird. When the match was over, you kind of sense with the crowd was like, oh, thank God this match is over. And it's a strong testament to the fans in the audience having some knowledge and being aware of the story that was being discussed earlier in the morning. So, yeah, that kind of just was like one of the things that carried over, or as the show started, that was in this match, it just carried over and everything. But man, this match with Andrade and Miro, this was a very physical match. And like I said, with the news that broke earlier in the day, and then you add on people already being aware of a story being broken that, hey, Andrade is going to be possibly going back to the WWE. So, of course, wrestling fans, they're like, okay, Miro's going to beat him. Andrade's going to lose. CJ's probably going to turn on him. Okay. So it's kind of like they already knew how the important parts of the match were going to go, which it did. And kudos to both Miro and Andrade. They laid their stuff in. But yeah, it just felt like the crowd knew how everything was going to go with that match. And it was just like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this. And once the match was over, it's kind of like, again, a sense from the crowd. All right, let's see if Andrade shows up on Monday Night Raw, this Monday, if he's the guy that Triple H was talking about. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. And it wasn't hard. You didn't sense this like animosity or anything, or like the crowd's like, oh, I don't like Andrade going back or anything. It was just more like, okay, we know kind of sense or hear what's going on. All right, let's see what's going on. Let's move on to the next match. So yeah, this whole pay per view had that weird. We know what's going on outside of this pay per view, and it was just a really awkward vibe. I'm not gonna say weird. It was just an awkward vibe for most of the show. Um, the show really changed once you got to Adam Copeland and Christian Cage's match. That's when the crowd just woke up. Like they just, man, kudos to Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. Those guys, man, I have to say, they saved this pay per view. Granted, Eddie Kingston and Moxley, they came after, and of course MJF and Samoa Joe, they came after. But Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, man, they saved this pay per view, man. That match was intense. This crowd was enthusiastic. They were engaged. They were chanting, "This is awesome." They just came to life. They were just, let's go. Man, this match was violent. What helped the crowd get into this match was Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. They went into the crowd. Was it Adam Copeland was on one of the elevated areas and jumped off and dove on Christian Cage, which was like, oh man, this is crazy. They had weapons. Then there was a point in the match where they had the flaming table, and Nick Wayne got powerbombed through it. It was a really good match. Adam Copeland wins, and then Kill Switch, formerly known as Luchasaurus, he won the Battle Royal in the 0 Hour, which was a number one contendership opportunity for the TNT title. He comes in. It was basically like the Money in the Bank, and he cashes in, or he attempts to cash in, and Christian Cage stops him. He's like, no, let me take it. And he gives it to Christian Cage. Christian Cage cashes in, and by this time, Luchasaurus already chokeslammed. He just beat down Adam Copeland, power bombed him or chokeslammed him onto a steel chair, and Christian Cage, opportunistic spirit. Man, it's kind of ironic because Adam Copeland did that when he was Edge in WWE. The opportunistic, I forgot what the moniker he was using at that time, but you guys know what I mean. Christian spears him, pins. So Christian Cage loses the title, convinces Luchasaurus to give him the TNT title shot from the Battle Royal. He cashes that in. He spears Adam Copeland and regains his TNT title. I thought that was pretty cool. It was clever. It adds to Christian Cage's sneakiness as a heel in AEW and him being just snarky and smug. And you're just like, I can't wait for him to beat them up. It did kind of feel and sense when you saw Christian Cage come down with Nick Wayne's mom. It's like, is Beth Phoenix going to show up? Like, is she going to help Adam Copeland? She did send out a tweet looking forward to the, I think it was the Tony Storm Rio match or the Julia Hart Abaddon match. One of those two matches, he tweeted it. So it was like, ooh, okay. So I don't know. 2024 is probably going to be, I've been saying it's going to be a weird year. I mean, who's to say we might see Beth Phoenix show up in AEW and help Adam Copeland in this storyline against Christian Cage? That would be dope. But yeah, the Adam Copeland Christian Cage match, that was cool. I like the ending. Adam Copeland is technically a former TNT champion, so that was a really cool moment. But yeah, that match, it woke up the crowd. Then afterwards, you had Eddie Kingston, Jon Moxley. This was a battle. This crowd, man, they loved Eddie Kingston. They were cheering for Eddie Kingston, and he basically went on a bitch slap, which was freaking hilarious. He wins. I kind of thought that they were gonna um, like Moxley, Danielson, Claudio were kind of gonna like, hey, join the Blackpool Combat Club. I kind of thought that was gonna happen. It didn't happen. Of course, Brian Danielson was running down Eddie King's like, I can't believe I lost to this guy. This is really, I lost to this guy, but he did a really cool job of breaking down the sports centric aspect of the tournament and the match of Moxley and Eddie Kingston, which I thought was really cool. So we'll see where that goes. Of course, earlier in the night, you had Daniel Garcia win in the All Star 8-man tag. And it kind of looked like at that time that we're kind of seeing seeds planted of Daniel Garcia joining the Blackpool Combat Club, which should happen. Me personally, I've been saying it. Daniel Garcia and Hook and Eddie Kingston should join the Blackpool Combat Club. I honestly feel like Will Yuta, he Will Yuta as a wrestler and how he is, for me, it seems like he's better fit for the Don Callis family than the BCC. That's just my opinion, but it does seem like the Blackpool Combat Club, they have this cool edge, but it's like outside of Moxley, Danielson, and Claudio, they need that younger, lions, so to speak. No pun intended of New Japan, but it's like they need those young lions to like really add, this fresh fire to it. Where it's like, hey, we need these young guys going after these titles, the TNT, the tag titles, the 6-man tag, and man, I would love a 6-man tag between Eddie Kingston, Daniel Garcia, and Hook. That would be a dope 6-man tag, but we'll see where AEW goes at the debut edition of Dynamite in 2024 and how everything plays out. But hopefully there is changes. You do see changes happening with the women's division. I don't have them on my notes, but I do got to give them a shout out. The women's matches, Chris Statlander, Willow, that was a dope match. Toni Storm and Rio, that was a fun match. And Julia Hart and Abaddon. I mean, they all three had great matches. It was just Chris Statlander and Willow was pretty cool. It was just, they were it was the first match of the 0 Hour. So that really got the crowd into the, the pay-per-view and everything. Like, all right, we're going to get into this pay-per-view. Toni Storm, it got, people, into it. Toni Storm's freaking hilarious and over. So I thought that was pretty cool. But man, Julia Hart and Abaddon, man, they had it tough because they came on after the Sting, Darby, Sammy, Jericho match, which a lot of people weren't feeling because of obvious reasons. So they had a tough time of like getting that crowd into it. They did a hell of a job of trying to get that crowd into the pay-per-view and everything. But they, you know what? I will give them credit. They did steer the crowd into a more enthusiastic and engaging response, which led to Adam Copeland and Christian just taking the pay-per-view to another level. Then, oh man, that main event. Samoa Joe and MJF. MJF came out to a pretty cool vignette. The crowd was chanting, he's our scumbag, he's our scumbag. Man, he had probably the biggest response of the night outside of Swerve Strickland, which, man, get well soon, Keith Lee, man. It's unfortunate that match didn't happen. It's, like I said, this pay-per-view had some awkwardness going into it, and it just, things didn't click. And also at the time of this recording, the AEW media scrum is going on, so I don't know what has been said or anything like that. I will check it out and everything. But man, this main event, Samoa Joe, MJF. MJF comes out, he goes to the ring, then he points to the back, and then Adam Cole comes to the ring. Right then, I'm like, he is losing this title, and Adam Cole is going to be revealed as the devil. I like the way they revealed the Maskman and the devil. I will get into that. So Adam Cole comes out. He's on a his crutches and everything. And this was a really good match. The crowd was into it. MJF, he came out with a shoulder, I would say, strap to keep his shoulders stabilized and everything. There was a sick spot where Samoa Joe did a um, muscle buster on the edge of the apron, and it was like, man, that hurt, man. Man, I don't know what it is with AEW and a lot of their wrestlers taking bumps on the side of the apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, man. Man, they are some tough dudes, man. And actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that. They are some tough dudes and tough women to take that, man, because whew, Lord have mercy. So you had that spot, and then you had this back and forth, and then you had Adam Copeland give MJF the ring. Samoa Joe, he had him in a sleeper hold. Ref raises his arm, drops, does a second time, it drops, does it a third time, it drops, and Bryce Remsburg, like, ring the bell. Samoa Joe is the new AEW World Champion. There were no shenanigans. I was anticipating shenanigans. I know many of you were probably anticipating some sort of shenanigans, which would lead to Samoa Joe winning. There wasn't. Like, Samoa Joe beat MJF clean. Now this is where the interesting part comes in. So Samoa Joe leaves out the ring, and Adam Copeland, he's consoling MJF, and he's just, man, what's going on here? This. All of a sudden, the masked men come in. They're at ringside and everything. They're just roaming the ring. And then Adam Copeland is, or not Adam Copeland, man, tongue twice, forgive you guys. Adam Cole and MJF, they're fighting off a few of the masked men. The lights go black. It's like, ooh, okay, is the devil coming out? It's like, all right, what's going to happen? Lights come back on. You got MJF on his knees looking at the masked men and Adam Cole with his head down in the chair. Man, oh man. They take off their mask. You have Roderick Strong, Mike Bennett, Matt Taven, Wardlow, which that was pretty cool because he put in his Instagram stories that he's in Hawaii or something like that. So people are like, oh, well, he's not there. This. And Adam Cole raises his head like this. And they just beat the crap out of MJF. And Wardlow gets his payback because he did his crazy powerbomb on MJF. All this makes sense. It was kind of obvious these guys were involved from the jump. I do feel at certain points during this lead up to this reveal, it could have been tweaked a little bit and a little bit like tighter as far as not being so hokey or anything like that. But for the most part, I love this journey and reveal. You really thought, man, it could be Adam Hangman Page. I honestly thought at times it was the Young Bucks. I thought it was Britt Baker. I even thought it was Tony Khan. I thought it was Swerve Strickland. I'm like, man, it could be Mustafa Ali. I was thinking I had maybe 8 to 10 people, and I think many of you probably had 8 to 10 people. But man, I like the reveal. What I do like about this story, after tonight's pay-per-view, is that MJF, of course, he's banged up, really. Not just storyline-wise, he's really banged up. So this gives him time to heal. It gives Adam Copeland time to heal. So this, as they heal, you have this story that eventually is going to reignite when these guys get healed. Hopefully AEW doesn't let it cool off, which I don't think it's going to cool off because you still have Samoa Joe, who's a part of this, who Adam Copeland insisted MJF team with Samoa Joe's team with them, and Samoa Joe was working with the devil / Adam Cole. So that works. Yeah, I love the reveal. Man, Adam Copeland as a heel, man, he reminds me so much of Shawn Michaels from 1997. That smirk, that smile, that just, you're like, man, he's so annoying and like, I want to beat the hell out of him, but man, he's dope and cool. So yeah, I I really like this. This was cool. The last three matches really, I gotta say, it saved this pay per view. Before these three matches, the Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, Eddie Kingston, Moxley, Samoa Joe, and MJF, like this was a very awkward pay per view, um, and just very at times it just felt like, man, this is a pay per view you could just pass on. Like, read the results or anything, you're not missing much. Which is unfortunate because AEW has had some pretty strong shows with the Continental Classic and everything the past month or so. So it was like, man, this is okay. We're anticipating. It was just kind of, after, oh man, I want to say the match before the 8-man tag with Darby, Sting, Sammy, and Jericho. You kind of actually, I gotta say, when the vignette started airing of that 8-man tag, that's when the awkwardness just like grew. Like before the pay per view started, there was an awkwardness. Like, okay, is he gonna be on the pay per view? Are we gonna get like a backstage attack, and then it's gonna be one man short, and then they're gonna win? That didn't happen. I thought that was gonna happen. It didn't happen. They all came out, and it was just like the moment that vignette started, and then, of course, when Judas played, there was just, man, this awkwardness. There was a couple signs in the crowd. Go on social media, you'll see it, and everything. It's just like that was just a very awkward match, and it carried over into a few matches before the Adam Copeland Christian Cage match. But this was a pretty decent. The last few matches, like I said, they saved the pay per view. Really interested to see what's going to happen and transpire on the first AEW Dynamite for 2024. We shall see that. But in other news, before this pay per view, there was a lot of word, and I don't want to say a lot of word, just a lot of speculation and discourse about AJ Mendes, CM Punk's wife, her IG story. She posted a shot of her former gear when she was in WWE, the last time she wrestled and everything. Of course, there was a few videos of her that were posted of her training during Heels and everything. So, could we possibly see her return this Monday? Me personally, I wouldn't be surprised if AJ Mendes returns at the Royal Rumble as a surprise entrant for the Women's Royal Rumble. That would not shock me or surprise me. That'd be pretty cool. I always enjoyed her character. It was just different. It was fresh. There was a lot of things they could have done that I feel they didn't do. I don't know. It's going to be interesting if she does return to WWE. He's there. She comes back. This is a totally different landscape of women's wrestling in WWE as compared to 2014, 2015 when she was there. You're looking at, what, a 9-year gap. So a lot of things have changed. So I don't know. We'll see. That'll be interesting how it plays out. And then the other big news, and this is really big news that broke during AEW World's End. Kevin Dunn, what is his title? Pretty much the executive producer of, let me see. Give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. He is, I want to make sure that I get his title. The executive producer, chief, and global television distribution is leaving after more than 3 decades. Yes, 3 decades. Yes, Kevin Dunn, the person who is pretty much responsible for all those camera cuts and shaky cam and all that other stuff. He is leaving the WWE, and this was reported by PWInsider.com. Go check out that article. I do have the link to that article on City of Wrestling's Facebook page, so go check out that story and everything. So yes, he's leaving after 3 decades, and in the article it was stated that he felt like leaving because of the after the merger with TKO and everything. So you knew changes were bound to happen once Vince, um, didn't have creative direction and more of that authority was given to Triple H. So you kind of anticipated changes were going to happen, and we're seeing it now. And of course, in 2024, we're probably going to see even more changes, which I'm looking forward to seeing the changes that they're going to implement in WWE. Of course, in AEW and all these other wrestling companies. But man, that I did not anticipate that story breaking um, tonight. Um, I I mean, I would anticipate that story breaking next year, possibly like before WrestleMania or something like that, or after, or before WrestleMania. Like, hey, after WrestleMania, this is my last time. Like, that's how I would have envisioned it breaking. But man, it broke during an AEW pay per view, and while WWE's doing a house show in the Kia Forum, so changes are coming in WWE. We know about changes in AEW and their whole infrastructure. There's just a lot of changes that are going to take place in professional wrestling. And let me tell you, it's going to be a never say never, unpredictable 2024 in the world of professional wrestling. Um, there could be, and I honestly sense there's going to be wrestlers you thought would never leave or probably going to leave. There's going to be stories that are like, oh my God, this is going to be cool. This is going to be fun for wrestling fans. But yeah, this today was a very interesting day in the world of professional wrestling. And I hope tomorrow is better for a lot of wrestling fans. And I hope tomorrow is better for a lot of fans who were affected by the story that broke in the morning. Yeah, wrestling fans, it's never a dull moment in professional wrestling, and at the end of the day, this is entertainment, and it's a form of escapism for a lot of people. And yeah, just don't treat this entertainment like it's a priority, and your priority is like an entertainment or joke or anything like that. Please don't do that, because man, the world don't need that, man. But yeah, this AW World's End pay-per-view was a very awkward yet entertaining pay-per-view. And, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with AJ Mendez. Is she going to eventually show up at the Royal Rumble? And, well, Kevin Dunn is leaving after 3 decades. So, really interested to see how Raw, Smack, I don't know. We'll see where that goes. So, that is this edition of Showtime. And man, let's see what happens in the world of professional wrestling. And I will see you guys next time.